here about the thing of the person being, the apostate being killed, it was during a time when Islam was in a time of war and conflict, where the apostate became a danger, internal danger to the state. But now, I pose the question to David Wood there, that if apostasy and killing is part of the law of Islam right now, and Christians claim that 1 million Muslims become Christian every year, should we not then have at least reports of 150 to 200,000 Muslims being killed every year? And if this is the fact, why hasn't it been reported by Reuters or any independent news organization or any organization, worldwide organization, has ever reported on such a fact? Do we have that?
Now, you raise an interesting question. Wasn't the command to kill apostates just something for the time of Muhammad? And the answer is a definite no. Muhammad didn't say, if anyone leaves his Islamic religion for the next 20 years while the Muslim community is threatened, then kill him. Not what he said at all. He said, if anyone leaves his Islamic religion, kill him. And he didn't say kill him until a certain amount of time goes by and we're all safe. No, that's the command he issued. And if you say what he really meant was this is only for this time, well, you must believe that Muhammad was such a horrible communicator that all four of the schools of Islamic jurisprudence completely misinterpreted everything he ever said, and that all Muslim scholars up until the 19th century misinterpreted what he said, because all the great scholars up until the 19th century agreed that apostates are to be killed. So if you're saying that Muhammad meant something different, you're telling me he was a horrible communicator, and by not clarifying what he meant, tons of people have been killed because his followers didn't know what he really wanted. And besides that, we know you're wrong. How? Well, if you have a copy of Sahih al-Bukhari, if you open Sahih al-Bukhari and you find that, well, I'll go ahead and read it to you. In Sahih al-Bukhari 6930, Muhammad says, during the last days, so he's not talking about during his time, he's talking about far in the future. During the last days there will appear young, foolish people who will say the best words, but their faith will not go beyond their throats. And they will go out from their religion as an arrow goes out of the game. So wherever you find them, kill them, for whoever kills them shall have reward on the day of resurrection. So Muhammad's not saying here in this time we're going to kill apostates, but later on, no. He's saying even far in the future, when you see people leaving Islam, you have to kill them. So here's what you have. According to all of your Muslim sources, apostates are to be killed. According to all four of the rightly guided caliphs, even when Arabia was firmly established as a Muslim community, they were still killing apostates, and Muhammad commanded his followers to follow the path of the rightly guided caliphs. So Muhammad commanded apostates are to be killed. All four of the rightly guided caliphs commanded apostates to be killed. All four schools of Islamic jurisprudence commanded that apostates should be killed. Who says that apostates shouldn't be killed? Modern westernized Muslims who've been influenced by Western values such as freedom of religion. And I hate to break this to you, but Western values is not a source of Sharia law. The source of Sharia law, Qur'an, Hadith, interpreted through the four schools, and those sources are unanimous that apostates are to be killed. So I hope that answers your question.
Gellar on air with us. Welcome to the show, Sister Pam. Pam is from Atlas Shrugs. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. If I just might interject one thing regarding that caller, when he describes the violent text in the Bible, just a quick aside, a comment that Robert Spencer made, that, you know, throughout history, these texts have never been taken as divine commands that either must be or may be put into practice by believers in a new age. All of the passages in the Bible are descriptive, not prescriptive. There's a difference. Nowhere do they command believers to imitate the behavior or to believe under any circumstances that God wishes them to act as his instruments of judgment in any situation today. It's deceptive, and I just wanted to clarify that, and we can certainly move on. And as far as, once again, the taqiya, that apostasy is an ancient idea. I mean, we were in Afghanistan, and Americans were outraged when Abdul Rahman was sentenced to death after we had liberated that country. And it was only after a week of intense lobbying by Western governments that he was given political asylum in Italy. So, I mean, let's just stick to the facts, if it's at all possible.
Now, Pamela, you've been one of Rifqa's biggest supporters over the past couple months, if not her biggest supporter. You're obviously a very conservative fundamentalist Christian, right?
No, I'm a Jewish girl from New York, but I don't even see myself as a supporter. I really just see myself as the only member in the media, or in my case, the alternative media, that is covering the story in a responsible fashion, reporting accurate information, reporting the facts, as opposed to being a propaganda wing for CARE, disinformation, and lies about this young girl. Yeah. It's just that simple.
So what do you think? What do you think about the media coverage from, say, Newsweek and the Orlando Sentinel?
It's an outrage. I mean, they are taking up the cause of Sharia law. They've taken up the cause. It's irresponsible, and worse than that, it's wrong. Yeah. They don't investigate even the most shallow and in a shallow, superficial fashion. They say the father is a doting father and he came to America to have his daughter's eye treated. Well, first of all, he lied about the eye, and she was forced to lie about her lost eye. She was forced to take responsibility for something that her brother did. Worse than that, they said he came to America for medical treatment for the eye. Her eye has never been looked at. She was never taken for any medical treatment. It's one lie after another. They say, oh, look, she wears a cheerleading costume, and so, they can't be that strict. Well, anybody that knows anything about Muslim girls living in the West know that they lead double lives. But that notwithstanding, they never saw her in her cheerleading outfit. She said in her testimony, or I should say her interrogation with the Florida law enforcement, that she would come home with sweats over the outfit. And again, the media allows itself to be used. When ABC was interviewing the parents, sitting right there on the couch, next to the couch, is a picture of her in her cheerleading costume. I mean, they never came to one game. But it's lie after lie after lie. I went to every hearing. In every hearing, they kept saying that they would produce the immigration documents, and it's no problem. They would introduce the immigration documents. They never did. I unearthed immigration documents that proved that the father was not only an illegal immigrant, but that he perjured himself. I had two separate documents, two applications under two different opportunities for amnesty. The first one was Reagan amnesty under a prolonged plan. 20 years later, there was somebody filed suit that they opened the door again where you could apply 20 years after Reagan amnesty. He applied under that, saying he was here in the 80s and the 90s, and then he applied under an L1 visa, which is saying you're a president of a multinational corporation, and that he wasn't here at all at that time. So there's two signed documents submitted to the government that are two very different narratives.
Pamela, I have a quick question here, and I'm really interested in the answer. Here in the United States, when something goes wrong, or when someone's life is threatened, or when there's some horrible injustice, we depend on the government. We depend on the government, on the courts, on the police, on various groups that are given power by the government to take care of these things. We depend on these groups to make sure that justice is done and that the courts and the police are going to protect the innocent from harm. What do we do when all of these groups don't seem to be taking this threat seriously? They don't seem to be wanting to do anything that might offend Muslims. In other words, I'm starting to feel helpless. When Rifqa fled to Florida and it starts coming before the court, I was actually thinking, aha, she's safe now. There's no way anyone's going to bring her back. There's no way they're going to give her back to her family. It's great, and she's safe now. And I find that the influence of groups like CARE and other Muslim organizations has become so powerful that they've so overwhelmed the media that now it seems like nothing is going to be done. What can we do? In other words, people like you, people like us, whether Christian or Jewish or atheist or anyone who believes that this girl should be protected, what is there for us to do?
Or Sikh or Hindu, exactly. Well, first of all, let me say that you're right. She has been sacrificed at the altar of political correctness, and what you see happening in Ohio now is they are really enforcing Sharia law. And at no time, there are 5,000 children in foster care in Florida. Not one of them have ever had their internet restricted and their phone restricted. She has no phone, no internet, and, in Islam, the punishment for female apostasy is prison until they recant. Well, she's in prison. She's in a house. She's not in a public school. She has no internet. She has no phone. She is really under house arrest. It's an outrage. And that's what people can do. They can express their outrage. I, in cooperation with Robert Spencer and Dr. Andy Boston, we are organizing a rally November 16th, the day of her dependency hearing. Simon Dang, the ex-slave from Sudan, will be there. Nani Darwish, the apostate and president of, or executive director of Former Muslims United. Jamal Javanji, the gentleman you had on your show previously, will be there. James Lafferty will be there. Fighters for freedom, proponents of freedom of religion, will be at this rally. I ask you to come out, and no matter what your politics are, it's irrelevant. This girl's basic human rights or civil rights are being violated. They must know they cannot do this in a vacuum. They must know that they will be held accountable to the people. Action can and should and must be taken by the people.
All right. Thanks, Pamela. I want to ask you, tell us, what is the ultimate danger or problem with this kind of misrepresentation in our media?
Well, people feel that she's not in danger. They have no clue as to the true nature of apostasy in Islam. They don't understand the threat that she faces because we live in a culture where you're not allowed to talk about it. Here, you see, in Arizona, a beautiful girl was run down by her father in an attempted honor killing, and the media, when they discuss it, they say because he was, he was enforcing his Iraqi values. These are the same values that Yasser Said in Texas held when he murdered, brutally tortured his daughters Amina and Sarah Said. Aqsa Parvez in Canada, across Europe. I mean, you see that they have now a special division in the UK to investigate hundreds of honor crimes. It's a deception that people are being deceived. This is a problem. They have no idea that she lives under the threat of death. Now, I did an interview with an apostate from Sri Lanka who said if this girl is returned to Sri Lanka, her life is finished, over, that she will be murdered. Now, this is an anathema to us. We are Western thinking. We don't kill our children. And this is what we have to stop. We have to stop thinking in this Western state of mind. Whether we understand it or not is irrelevant. We have to accept the reality that this is happening across the world. Yeah. And her crime is even more egregious than an honor killing. Mm-hmm. They dishonor the family in an honor killing. She has taken on Islam. Yeah. She, in my opinion, is the highest value target in America, higher than Wafa Sultan, higher than Ibn Warq, higher than Ayan Hershey Ali. If you listen to her testimony, if you listen to her video, she is the most reliable witness against the heinous nature, violent nature of Islamic law that we have seen since 9/11.
Pamela, as someone in the media, I was wondering if you would agree with this. I talked yesterday. I said that the media, to me, seems best. They seem like they're doing the best job when they're exposing injustice and they're exposing cruel practices. And when someone in another country, someone in Afghanistan, is about to be killed for apostasy, and the media focuses on this and draws international attention to it, and then the country, such as Afghanistan, is forced to do something about this and to make things right. Or when in Africa someone's about to be beaten for wearing pants or something like that, and the media draws international attention to it and forces that country to deal with it, it seems the media is doing something outstanding and phenomenal there. But when the media seems to be part of the cover-up and trying to cover up what's happening and pretending that the 5,000 honor killings around the world just aren't happening and Muslims would never do this and Muslims are just lovely and they don't really believe in following the commands of Muhammad. Isn't it true that the media is now becoming part of the problem and part of just a corrupt system?
They are the problem. Because Islam is immutable. The word of Islam is immutable. It's uncreated. It cannot be changed. It cannot be reformed. It cannot, because it is the word, allegedly, that was handed down by Allah. So the media is responsible. The media is dangerous. I mean, when I had a fight in the parking lot of the hearing with Phil Keating, and I said to him, "Why are you out for this girl?" I mean, I ran photos, screenshots of the death threat, the fatwa on Facebook of Rifqa Bary. They said she must be killed. Not we should kill her. She must be killed. It is a mandate. And when he cites the FDLE report or the Ohio law enforcement determination, you have to also understand there is a caveat. And the caveat was with Ohio and with Florida law enforcement is they said they did not investigate the religious nature of the threat.
Yes,
the nature of the threat. There is no threat. This is not a domestic abuse case.
Yeah.
This is Sharia law. There's a difference.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I do want to say something about that, but we have a ton of callers waiting to talk. I was just wondering, could you give us your website so that people can, if they're in the area and they want to join your rally for Rifqa Bary on the 16th, could you give them your information?
Yes, I would appreciate if they would go to Atlas, ATLAS, Shrugs, SHRUGS.com or PamelaGellar.com. And remember, you're not marching for Rifqa. You're marching for freedom of religion, freedom from religion. You're marching for your basic unalienable rights in this country. And believe me, it's a very slippery slope. If one terrible thing will lead to another, you must come out for this girl. You must.
All right. Thank you, Pamela.
Well, thank you, Pam, for joining us. We certainly appreciate you coming on air with us. We have a lot of calls coming in, so what we'll do is take your calls back to back, 4 to 5 of them, and then we'll let David and Mary Jo answer your questions or comments. But before that, I have a question for Muslims out there that are planning to call in. Again, our studio lines are 248-416-1300, and we're live. But my question is this: if a Muslim converts to Christianity like Rifqa, but then for some reason miraculously doesn't get killed and then wants to return back to Islam, are they able to do that? Or are there consequences for that? Or will they not be given the opportunity to do that? So that's a question that we'd like you to call in and let us know, enlighten us. Please do so, but please provide facts with whatever claim that you have. Again, our lines are 248-416-1300, and our next caller is Sister Negeen on air with us. Welcome to the show. Go ahead, Negeen.
Hi. I just wanted to comment. I know you asked Jamal earlier about what would you say to a 17-year-old girl who was considering converting to Christianity but was afraid of persecution. I thought I'd share something about my own story.
Yes.
I think for a long time I was afraid of persecution as well. I mean, I literally spent 6 months just denying everything I knew and saying, nope, I don't care because I know I will be persecuted. And it was the biggest waste of my time. I mean, it was just such a waste of time. I could have been worshiping God and praising Him when I was just totally denying Him because I was afraid of persecution. And I had actually, it was ridiculous because I had actually given my life to Christ and everything and then decided, nope, the persecution is too much to handle. I'm going to go back to Islam. And so I actually went back to Islam on the basis of not being able to handle my persecution. And what was evident for me in my own testimony was that I had no choice. I don't care, like, whatever amount of persecution I went through. I mean, it was just, my belief in Jesus Christ almost seemed like God was saying, you're going to believe in me, and that's the bottom line. Because, I mean, I just had no choice. I was just called back over and over again, and God said, no, look at my face, look at my face. So I would say, if you are afraid of persecution but don't want to give your life to Christ, the biggest thing that was prevalent in my own testimony was that ultimately, I really had no choice. I mean, God said, no, you're going to worship me. You will go through persecution, but so does so many other people.
Well, thank you.
I have one quick question for
all right,
Negeen.
go ahead.
So, Negeen, I asked this of, you still there?
Yeah.
I asked this of Jamal. Now, the mosque in Rifqa's that Rifqa's family goes to is what would be considered a radical mosque, and she has described her parents even before she ever ran away as radical Muslims. Now, as someone from a Muslim background, would you say that the representation given by her mosque, the way they're presenting it is, if this girl decides to leave Islam, she's free to do so, and her family's fine with it. Of course, we'd rather that she be a Muslim, but if she chooses to leave, that's fine for her, and you know, we're not going to have any objections to that. We might try to show her the truth, but under no circumstances would we ever consider harming her or persecuting her or anything like that. So she's perfectly safe if she is returned to her family and her community. Would you think that's accurate? Is that how Muslims react when someone leaves Islam?
No, of course not. That's just simply not true. For some reason, Muslims always feel like they have to put up a front and say, no, we're peaceful, we're not going to do anything. But that's simply not true. If they know anything at all about their religion, then they would know that that is not the case and that they should be out to harm her. That's not true with my own experience either. I mean, people were belittling me. I mean, they didn't, like... It's just not the case. People weren't like, okay, believe what you want to believe in, and we'll let you stay. I mean, I had so much pressure from the community. I had immense amounts of pressure from the Islamic community, even outside of my own family, telling me, you know, you should come back to Islam, etc. And that's simply not true.
And one final question for you, Negeen. If there's a 17-year-old out there right now that converted to Islam but is afraid, like you said, that you had fear and there was a lot of pressure and that you experienced people belittling you. So if they want to take that step but are too afraid to, what would you say to somebody like that?
I would just say that the cost is so much greater that you get the cross of Jesus Christ, and that's all that you can ask for, and that gives you life. That is the most important thing. And to follow that cross and to worship that cross is truly the most humbling and amazing experience you can go through. It will be hard, but I promise you it will get better and better as more and more time passes. Persecution, you're bound to face persecution. I mean, I literally spent 6 months preparing myself knowing that I was going to get persecuted. I spent 6 months saying, oh no, can I get persecuted? I'm going to get persecuted. I'm preparing myself. And no matter how much I could have prepared myself, like, it just didn't matter. It was still hard when I went through it, and I'm still going through it. So I would say just to push through and to meet more ex-Muslims that are out there, and to just have a strong support group and stay in the Word, stay in the Bible, just learn and grow more and more.
Well, thank you. It definitely takes a lot of courage to call in and give us your testimony. So we thank you for calling in, and we hope that a lot of other young adults that are considering you know, converting to Christianity will take your testimony and have the courage to do so. Well, we will take one more call, and then we have to take a break. But we have Robert on air with us. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Are you talking to me, Robert Spencer?
Hey.
Yes.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Good. Well, I'm happy to be here. What can I do for you?
Robert, you're someone who's written, how many books have you written on Islam?
9.
9?
9.
Now, you've obviously done quite a bit of studying on the life of Muhammad and on the issue of apostasy. Groups like, we're just trying to get as much confirmation as possible here. Groups like CARE and Defenders of Islam in the West, such as Jamal Badawi, are claiming that Islam does not promote the killing of apostates, that Muhammad never meant that. There's no compulsion.
I knocked over the silverware by saying that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yes, they're lying. They're lying. They're out and out lying at Jihad Watch virtually every day. I have a story about an apostate being persecuted, being threatened with death, being killed in the Islamic world, in Somalia, in Sudan, in Iraq, in Pakistan, all over the Islamic world. People who leave Islam are in fear for their lives. Every school of Islamic jurisprudence, without exception, teaches that the apostate must be killed. You asked a question before and asked callers to answer it. I will answer it if you'd like. The question was, what if somebody leaves Islam and then returns? In several of the schools of Islamic law, in Sunni Islam particularly, there is a time limit. the apostate is asked to return to Islam and is given a certain period. Now, various scholars differ as to how long the period ought to be. Should it be a day? Should it be a week? Should it be a month? But they do allow for this period of consideration, and if the apostate returns to Islam during that period, according to some of the schools of Islamic law, then he's not killed. But then the time limit runs out, and then his life is forfeit.
Now, Robert, you mentioned that people, if a Muslim in the West is claiming that Islam does not promote the killing of apostates, I would grant that it's possible that the Muslim has just never read the sources, and this is true in most cases. But when it's from a person who has studied the Muslim sources, an imam or a sheikh, and they claim that that Islam does not promote the killing of apostates. Now, in the West, we're used to people telling us the truth. If I walk up to a Jewish rabbi or to a Christian minister and I ask a question about that person's religion, I'm used to that person telling me the truth about what his religion teaches. Now, why is this different in Islam so that when someone in the media goes down the street and asks an imam, hey, does your religion teach this, they get answers that are simply inconsistent with what their religion actually teaches? So why is it so different when we ask a Muslim a question from when we ask a Christian or a Jew or even an atheist or a Hindu or a Sikh? Why is it so different?
We have to understand that in Islam, according to the Qur'an, questioning is a bad thing. Muslims are actually told not to question their faith because they might lose their faith in the Qur'an. And so when a non-Muslim comes and questions Islam, comes and questions some aspect of Islamic teaching, this is considered to be a threat to Islam. And then another provision of Islamic teaching kicks in, and that is the teaching that if a Muslim is under pressure, if a Muslim is under threat, if he's being challenged or if he is in fear, then it is perfectly legitimate for him to deceive the unbelievers and pretend that he believes something else. And this also is founded in the Quran, that a Muslim can pretend to believe something that he does not believe when he's under pressure, when he is in fear for his life or in some sort of grave danger. And sometimes the questioning itself is interpreted as exactly that kind of grave danger. So a Muslim is perfectly within his bounds to deceive. And so if you think about it from the standpoint of these Islamic scholars, they are doing something that is commanded by the religion as they understand it, commanded by Allah, commanded by the Quran. And they are also doing something that they consider to be a noble act of protecting Islam by lying about it, because obviously if non-Muslims knew in large numbers that Islam has a death penalty for apostates, they might start protecting apostates. And that itself would be considered to be an attack on Islam, an anti-Islamic act.
So Robert, what I've noticed over and over again in the media, and this is almost every article I've read from the mainstream media on the Rifqa Bary case, I see the same pattern over and over again. It starts off, this is what Rifqa is claiming, and this is what Christian fundamentalists are claiming that Islam teaches. However, we went to such and such imam, and we went to such and such sheikh, or we went to a representative of CARE, and we asked them what Islam teaches, and they have said, no, Islam doesn't teach that at all. You're telling us that that is the worst thing the media could ever do, is simply go to a Muslim and take whatever the Muslim scholar says at face value when he's talking about his religion.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, look, it's not that they shouldn't go. They should go, but they shouldn't take it at face value. They should have the sense to check it against what Muslims say in other contexts. The best way to know what Islam actually teaches is to go to see what Muslims say to other Muslims. And when they don't think that there are any unbelievers around, like, for example, Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who is one of the leading Islamic scholars in the world and the guiding force behind Al Jazeera TV network and Islam Online on the internet, he is very clear in speaking to fellow Muslims and in writing at Islam Online that all the schools of Islamic law teach that the apostate should be killed, and that Muhammad taught it, and it is founded in widely accepted interpretations of Quran verses. And so really, it's not a question. And that's Sheikh Qaradawi. But Sheikh Qaradawi doesn't come when he comes to the West. He's a friend of the mayor of London, Ken Livingstone, the former mayor of London. He doesn't say that when he's speaking in London, and the BBC is listening. But when he goes back to Qatar and he's speaking in Arabic to Muslim audiences, then he has no problem. And that's the kind of thing the mainstream media ought to have the sense to pick up on, but they do not.
Well, Robert, we thank you for calling in. We have to go to a break now, but anyone who'd like to learn more and access Robert's writings, his website is Jihad Watch. And just thank you for calling, Robert.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.